Welcome to the Wicket.
Hello and welcome to The Wicket, a podcast from Arab News looking at the world of cricket locally in the Gulf, regionally across Asia and worldwide. I'm Brian Murgatroyd, and with me as ever to pick over events across the globe are Arab News columnist Jon Pike and Arab News cricket reporter Subas Humagain. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, Brian.
Hello, Brian. Hello, John.
And in this episode, we'll be talking about the end of the India-Australia Women's Series that's covered all three formats, with Australia triumphant again in the T20Is to follow on from their series win in the One Day Internationals. And we'll also talk about the controversial second test between South Africa and India in Cape Town that took less than 2 days, with India winning by 7 wickets. We wrap up the Australia-Pakistan Test series, which concluded with an 8-wicket win for Australia in Sydney to seal the series 3-0. We reflect upon the start of Zimbabwe men's white ball tour of Sri Lanka. We look ahead to the India men's T20I series against Afghanistan. We chat about the ICC Awards nominations that have been announced, and we assess the draw for the group stage of the ICC Men's T20 World Cup. So, as ever, plenty to get through, so let's get cracking. Let's start off with the conclusion of what's been a topsy-turvy series across the three formats between India and Australia women's sides. India won the test between the teams just before Christmas comfortably by 8 wickets before Australia bounced back to win the One Day International series 3-0. Now, in the 2020 internationals that have wrapped up the tour, Australia have again come out on top. India won the first match with a crushing victory by 9 wickets and more than 2 overs in hand. Shafali Verma returned to form with an unbeaten 64, while Titas Sadhu, who was player of the match in last January's ICC Under-19 Cricket World Cup final against England, she took 4 for 17. In match 2, Australia hit back with a 6-wicket win with an over to spare as Ellyse Perry, in her 300th match for her country, made 34 not out from 21 balls to seal the win. Then, in the decider, Australia successfully chased India's 147 for 6, winning by 7 wickets with 8 balls to spare, thanks in large part to Alyssa Healy and Beth Mooney adding 85 for the first wicket in 10 overs. Subas, after match 2, Dipti Sharma said that despite that loss, India felt they were close to a series win against Australia. But you know what? After match 3, they're still waiting. What went wrong this time, do you think?
Indeed, I think Dipti's claim was true. India were there in the competition, but I think they are a bit far. They have to be consistent to get the result against best in the business, and that should come across all three departments. The team has performed as unit, but Australia, they take the competition to another level just when they feel like they're leveling the field. There has been competitive matches, but Australia has produced multiple match-winning performances. The individuals, they have stepped up, but India, they've come in bits and pieces, and I think they still need a proper finisher in both the departments.
John, a word on Ellyse Perry. Passing 300 matches and counting is a monumental achievement, and she still seems to have plenty of fire left in the belly and a desire to press on.
Yeah, monumental is an appropriate description. The first Australian woman to do so. I think we should all be pleased that cricket got her rather than soccer when she was 16. We also need to remember she hasn't always held down a place in the T20 side. Indeed, she didn't play a single match at the Commonwealth Games in 2022. And after that, she changed her approach and went up a gear, which isn't easy. Now she's nominated for the ICC's T20I Cricketer of the Year, 23. And an interesting stat is that since December 2020, she's hit 22 sixes in T20Is, the most by any woman in the format. And remarkably, before that, she only hit 23 sixes in 14 years in the format. At 2033, she's still finding cricket motivating and enjoyable. And she says that for as long as I can contribute to the team, I'd love to be here. She's endured and she's evolved.
Subas, that performance by Shafali Verma in match 2 underlines her value to the side and the importance of her being in form, but she's struggled with that this season, hasn't she?
I think for me, Safali adds much more than runs in the team. Reminds me of Virendra Sehwag in late 2000s for India. I think she'll set the tone with brisk start. And if she gets going, I think she has the capacity to take the game away from the opposition. But along with that, she has temperament if needed to hold the innings as well, which we saw in Test cricket just last week. Good thing for India is she's got the numbers in last 2 matches, and I think even if she fails up top, I think there are players like Smriti and Harman who can stitch up the innings going forward.
John, where does this series leave the two sides ahead of the ICC T20 World Cup in Bangladesh later this year? Are they clear on where they stand, do you think, or are there plenty of questions still to answer?
As Perry's done and evolved, I think the Australian team is evolving in front of our eyes. I think we've now got Litchfield, Gardner and Sutherland as class performers. I think they're looking pretty settled and very, very strong. I think India's got issues to resolve. They've got the talent. I think they've got to work out how to gel and win critical moments. Of course, what we don't know is how teams are going to adjust to the wickets they're going to find in Bangladesh.
Australia now head home, but there's no time for rest for them. They're back on the horse very quickly with a series against South Africa across all three formats, starting with the 2020 International Series that begins in Canberra on January the 27th. India's tour of South Africa wrapped up with a New Year's test in Cape Town, and what a remarkable match it was. India won it by 7 wickets to share the two-match series 1-1. What was remarkable was that the match lasted just about 5 sessions rather than the 5 days scheduled, and it was the shortest test with a positive result in terms of balls bowled, just 642 needed for that Indian win. South Africa was skittled for just 55 before lunch. Then India later lost 6 wickets without a run being scored and were bowled out for 153. South Africa managed to set India 79 to win in the 4th innings, thanks largely to Aiden Markram's 106 from 103 balls, the only individual score over 50 in the whole match, and India knocked the runs off in 12 overs. John, I think everyone accepted that the ground staff got the preparation of this test pitch disastrously wrong. It was a pacey surface, the bounce was a little uneven, and with the quality of fast bowlers on both sides, it made a lottery really for batters of both teams, didn't it?
It certainly did. Chris Broad was a match referee, rather cautious of him, I thought. Some reported the ball bounced quickly and sometimes alarmingly making it difficult to play shots. A bit of an understatement, really. The wicket has been deemed unsatisfactory, 1 demerit point. It's really a shame you can't really make any excuse for not preparing a proper wicket at Newlands.
Subas, what about Aiden Markram's innings? In the context of the match, it has to be one of the most remarkable performances of all time, doesn't it?
Well, he was the lone warrior in the middle for home team. He knew he couldn't just hold back, so he took the risks by playing big shots. And he ran out of partners. I think he went on fighting. He'd be proud, but I think the pitch condition and other contributions among the team speaks more about the impact. The way Rohit reacted after that dismissal, that speaks a lot about how frustrated India were with his innings. I stayed almost until the end. Everybody knew that the pitch, even though he played almost half the innings, he had century at the end. He will remember this, but for all the wrong reasons.
John, it was fascinating to hear India captain Rohit Sharma afterwards saying he felt there was double standards in criticism of pitches, and that if a test pitch in India had produced a finish so quick, especially if the pitch offered help to spinners, then the criticism would have been extremely loud. Is he spot on, or has he actually missed the point? Because no one that I heard had anything but criticism for this Cape Town surface or thought it was in any way acceptable.
I think I'd put his comments in the category of opportunism and probably a swipe at Chris Broad, with whom he has form. I think by all accounts, Western Province Cricket Association has internal issues. I think they include financing issues on redevelopment resulting in debt. Apparently, this has resulted in the outsourcing of services, including curating. And I understand that this was the first test wicket prepared by the contracted curator. And for me, this is symptomatic of a deeper, under-the-surface malaise, a focus on pitches for T20 rather than Test cricket, short-termism over long-termism. Don't forget that Centurion, for the first Test, was not a great wicket either.
Subas, it certainly produced exciting cricket, but surely this type of test match is no good for anyone, is it? It devalues the format, it upsets the broadcasters who want 5 days of cricket, and it shortchanges the fans who may have bought tickets for the unused days.
Exactly, Brian. I don't see the positive side of setting up such scenario. Even more when the future of format is up in the air. The fans want competitive cricket, but not this kind of competition where the struggle is to save wickets and to save wickets for wrong reasons. We are seeing day 5 pitches in the first day. Imagine having 23 wickets in day 1. I think it explains the disaster what we were seeing, and to have India losing 6 wickets for no runs. I think. Thanks to top 3 batters of the world, I think if not for them, I think we would have seen a farcical innings from India. And the runs that we saw were a result of the individual brilliance of these batsmen. We have had such pitches in the past, but nowhere closer to this one. I think we saw 1/4 of a match producing a result, and that's not what the identity of Test cricket is.
Well, South Africa are now starting the SA20, their domestic T20 franchise tournament, as well as having that test tour to New Zealand with an understrength squad that we've spoken about in the previous podcast. While India, they're all set for a T20I series against Afghanistan as part of their preparations for the ICC T20 World Cup in the Caribbean and the USA later this year. Let's talk now about Australia against Pakistan, and David Warner got his glorious test send-off in Sydney as Australia wrapped up the third test against Pakistan by 8 wickets with a day to spare, and they sealed the series 3-0 as a result. Warner made 57 in the run chase as Australia, having trailed by 14 on first innings, powered ahead in the second half of the match. They rolled Pakistan over for just 115 second time round, with at one stage Josh Hazlewood taking 3 wickets in 1 over at the back end of day 3. John, Pat Cummins was player of the series with 19 wickets, and what an effort it was from him with another 5-wicket haul, his third in succession in the first innings in Sydney. A remarkable performance. He goes from strength to strength, doesn't he?
He does. He's in superb form, possibly the best of his career.
But I guess as well, John, there was a case to be made for Mitch Marsh being player of the series. I think in 5 innings he played, he had 4 half-centuries, he made important contributions with the ball, and he caught superbly in the cordon. So all of a sudden, from 12 months ago when he wasn't mentioned, all of a sudden now he's popped up again, hasn't he?
He has. He's had a very good 2023, and very few would have, forecast that. It does highlight cricket's rather capricious nature. Green, by contrast, had a very difficult year. During that, he revealed he has health issues, a chronic kidney condition from a young age. But it does look like the Australian team and management rate him, and who wouldn't, and want him in the team in some role.
Subas, Pakistan controversially left out fast bowler Shaheen Shah Afridi from the starting 11 after he'd complained of feeling sore. In one sense, that seems fair enough, as he bowled more overs in the previous 2 tests than anyone else managed in 3. But was it fair enough, given he's T20I captain? They've got a series against New Zealand to follow, and there's a T20 World Cup after that, or should we listen to the conspiracy theorists in Pakistan who've railed against the decision? What do you think?
To be honest, even I was surprised to see him not in the lineup, but even more surprised with the reaction in social media regarding his omission. I think the reaction was a bit overboard and unexpected with the reasons Science Afridi himself gave. I think for me, the management, they were right to rest him, considering his future commitments, the performance he has been delivering. He was never up to the best in this series. We've seen him struggling to get the pace that he's famous for. I think it was only ideal thing to rest him for the final test, which had very little significance with series already gone. We've seen Pakistan failing to manage the workloads with these talents in the past, and when they actually try to maintain that, I think they've been facing harsh criticisms, and even more so with the World Cup performance, and even in the Asia Cup, I think they hurried with Nasim Shah and Sahin Shah. I think they were right to rest him and not have a risk of losing him for the business end of the T20 World Cup.
Subas, it's not all doom and gloom for Pakistan. Yes, it was a 3-0 series loss, but Mohammad Rizwan showed his value in the last 2 tests after being left out in match 1 in Perth, while Amir Jamal has been the breakout star of the tour, really, hasn't he? 18 wickets and a blazing 82 in the final test. He's played 4 T20Is before the tour and is 27 years old. But is it fair to call him an overnight test sensation?
I'd not term him sensation just as of now, but I would say he certainly showed his skills. He had to do it the hard way, the long run. He can be that handy all-rounder. Pakistan has been looking for a pace bowler who can bowl full quota as well as bat well down the order. This will balance out the bowling duties as well. He had to come in the team hard way, but I think he's impressed with the opportunities he has. And I feel he's here to stay for a long time, playing such innings against Australia, in Australia, being pick of the pace bowlers, being the new one in the squad. I think he's shown the promise, and I think Pakistan will back him for a long time.
Jon, Australia now face the task of finding a replacement for David Warner at the top of the order for the first West Indies test that starts on January the 17th. And the selectors have hung their hats on Steve Smith moving up the order. He's now going to open the innings. And also it means that Cameron Green is going to come back into the side and he's going to bat at number 4. That, of course, means there's no place in the starting 11 for Marcus Harris, Cameron Bancroft or Matt Renshaw, although Renshaw has been selected as the reserve batter. Are you surprised by any of that?
Yes, my instinct would have been to pick a specialist opener. I mean, Bancroft's been a leading run scorer in the Sheffield Shield, I think, in the last 2 years. Warner, of course, gave his view, I think, favouring Harris. Obviously, they want Green in the team. I'm not sure that Smith's technique at this stage of his career actually suited to opening. You mentioned that although Renshaw is a reserve, it is a slap in the face, if not worse, for the specialists. In Bancroft's case, it's difficult to see how he's ever going to get back into the team. And quite rightly, Western Australians are pretty aggrieved at this decision.
Subas, although the series finished 3-0, Pakistan were in every match. Is the margin between the two sides as simple as the absence of pace bowling support, especially Nasim Shah, which we've spoken about previously, of course, the failure of Babar Azam to deliver big scores, and also the catching, or more honestly, the dropped catching by Pakistan?
It should be a mix of all three, but especially the fielding side. I think you have to take your catches in these matches where margin of error is very, very slim. You're playing against Australia and dropping that too many catches. I think it's hard to pin down Australia at home anyways, and giving them some such opportunities under pressure, I think that's hard to overcome. Regarding pace attack, I think having Nasim and Rauf would have helped them. Nasim is out injured, but I think Rauf, they missed him big time with other bowlers, especially struggling to get it over 140 Ks. Especially, we see Rauf playing in Australia. He would have been a handy option for them. But I think not having Rauf, I think Amir Jamal would not have been around, not getting that opportunity. So something good following something bad here. And with Babar, I think no half century in 6 innings from your top batter isn't going to help you at all. Poor World Cup performance, stripped of captaincy. I think the pressure is over Babar, and if he doesn't overcome this sooner, there's going to be much more struggle.
Well, the first test between Australia and the West Indies is the first of 2 matches in that format, although it's followed by white ball matches as well. Pakistan's first of 5 2020 internationals against New Zealand is due to take place on January the 12th. At the time of recording, we're 2 matches into Zimbabwe's white ball tour of Sri Lanka. The first match was abandoned because of rain, with Sri Lanka well and truly on top, with Zimbabwe 12 for 2, chasing 274. But in match 2, we had a thriller, with Sri Lanka winning by 2 wickets. Chasing 209 to win, Janith Lianagay held the side together with 95, but when he was 8th out, there were still 47 runs to get, and Dushmantha Chamira and Jeffrey van der Zee got them. And that was tough on Richard Ngarava, who bowled with real pace and aggression to take 5 for 32. Subas, once again, as has been the case so often in the recent past, Sri Lanka's bowlers have been the ones to lead the side across the line, but this time they did it with the bat as well as the ball.
Yeah, we can say that from Sri Lanka's end, but what an opportunity was that for Zimbabwe. A big miss. I think if not for that poor spell of bowling, they could have saved that score. Batting wise, we expected the struggle from Zimbabwe, but after Ngrava's fiery opening spell, they could have and should have gone across the finish line. Credit to Sri Lanka's bowling unit for saving the match. I think they were fantastic playing with the situation. It was near about runnable at the time, but they held on to their innings, attacked the bowler as well. But Zimbabwe, I think they should be worried about their luck running out, especially 209. You had the match in grasp, 47 odd runs to get the last 2 wickets. You still end up on losing side. I think Sri Lanka ended up lucky on this one.
Jon, after the failure to qualify for the ICC Cricket World Cup, do you see any green shoots of recovery for Zimbabwe in the 50-over format, or is it simply too early to judge? Is the sample size too small?
Yes, I think it is too small. But there's a ray of hope in Craig Irvine's 82 and Ngrava's performance with the ball.
There's one more one-day international to come, plus a 3-match 2020 international series as well. And we'll chat about that action in our next episode. We've mentioned already about India facing Afghanistan in a 2020 international series that forms part of both teams' preparations for this year's ICC Men's T20 World Cup in the Caribbean and the USA. And we'll chat about the on-field action in our next episode. But ahead of the series were a couple of talking points for us to pick up on, the first of which is Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli, both selected in India's squad. They're two of India's greats, but with the new generation coming through off the back of IPL exposure, there have been questions in the India media about whether both should feature in India's best 11. Specifically, does Rohit go hard enough after the power play, if he's still there, and does Virat go hard enough, especially against spin, in the middle overs? What's your take on it, Subas?
Well, they are face of Indian cricket even now in the world and inside the country. But I'd like to see India taking decisions like they did in 2007. I think Tendulkar sat out of the T20s. He knew the game was not for him. Rohit and Kohli are players for the format still now, but not sure they're starters just yet. I'd have them around the team during the IPL, then see where they can contribute to the team and carry things forward. About Rohit, I think there has been a lot of debate around his captaincy with Mumbai Indians, whether what mental state will he be in, how can he contribute to the team. I think that will speak a lot. If he can't perform in the IPL itself, I think it's going to diminish its chances to go into the World Cup. And Kohli, with the rejuvenation in his form we've seen and the way he plays, I think he's still the man for India to play in that number 3 or number 4 spot. He can cover himself with the situation. I think playing the spin in the middle overs, that has been talk of the town recently, but I think Kohli is in top form. We saw him in the ODI World Cup as well, and RCB are going to count him in for this season as well. So I think Kohli still is the man for India.
Jon, peace seems to have broken out in the Afghanistan camp ahead of the series, with the Afghanistan Cricket Board apparently reaching agreement with 3 players it earlier disciplined for looking at franchise options ahead of national duty. That's Faisal Haq Faruqi, Naveen ul Haq and Mujib ur Rahman. They've now been promised a limited number of no objection certificates, will receive central contracts, but have also received a financial penalty for the dispute. What do you make of it all?
It has a flavour of a naughty schoolboy syndrome. Slap on the wrist of your star boys, some wise counsel leading to a compromise and some contrite statements. You go and earn some money, but when we allow you to do so. At least it heads off the possibility of unilateral action by the players and quite possibly a major international incident.
The matches in this T20I series are in Mohali, Indore and Bengaluru on the 11th, 14th and 17th of January, and we'll chat about them in more detail in the next episode. Well, it's awards season in Hollywood with the Golden Globes handed out recently stateside, and it's awards season in cricket too, as the nominees for 9 categories in the ICC Awards for the year 2023 have also been announced. Those categories are the Men's Cricketer of the Year, Women's Cricketer of the Year, Men's Test Cricketer of the Year, and across both men and women, the ODI, T20I and Emerging Cricketers of the Year. Nominated for the major prizes, the Women's and Men's Cricketer of the Year, who collect the Rachel Hayhoe Flint and Sir Garfield Sobers trophies respectively, are Chamari Atapattu of Sri Lanka, Australia's Ashley Gardner and Beth Mooney, and Nat Siva Brunt of England among the women, and Pat Cummins and Travis Head of Australia, plus Virat Kohli and Ravindra Jadeja for India for the men. The nominees for the Men's T20I Cricketer of the Year include Alpesh Ramjani of Uganda, due recognition for his efforts in helping his country reach their first ever ICC T20 World Cup, while Scotland's Darcy Carter gets a nomination in the Women's Emerging category. John, what jumps out at you from the nominations that have been released, apart from obviously Rachin Ravindra getting a nod in the men's emerging player category, of course? Anything else stand out for you?
Well, there can't be any doubt on the Ravindra one. If you like uninhibited, free-flowing cover drives and imperious 6 hitting over mid-wicket, there's only one winner for me. Other than that, the others that stand out are Ashley Gardner, Hayley Matthews and Mark Chapman. Looking at the performances by Gardner over 2023 and also by Matthews, who's posted some big scores, I think they've sort of gone under the radar a bit, and it's good to see that they're being recognised by those nominations. And Chapman, I haven't really seen much of before this year, and he's slowly, I think, making his mark in the New Zealand team, which is being reshaped in front of our eyes.
Subas Marufa Akhtar, the 19-year-old seam bowler, has received a nomination for Bangladesh as an emerging talent, but surely it'll be tough for her to finish ahead of Phoebe Litchfield of Australia, who did so well recently in the One-Day International Series in India, as well as Lauren Bell of England. Or do you think she or Darcy Carter have a genuine chance of collecting the award?
I think Marufa has been excellent getting the new blood into the side. They've been getting the results, is consistently performing, even though the numbers are not there to show for. I think she's bowling well and being part of the team. But it's hard for her to get over Phoebe, who's been excellent in that dominant Australian team. She's been getting the runs as well. It's an even matchup between all four, but I think Phoebe will take this away.
John, who are your favourites for the major individual awards, the men's and women's cricketers of the year, and why?
Oh, for me, Pat Cummins, for fairly obvious reasons. Not only leadership, the trophies that Australia have picked up under that leadership. Well, so I think there might have been questions about does he deserve it for playing performances alongside the leadership performances. I think the way he's rounded off 2023 sort of caps a decision off for me. I mean, you think, how can he possibly go better than 2023? The women's one is a tough call. We know that Natalie is a pure class act. We know that Chamari's excelled at T20 and leadership. Moon is just a run machine. But for me, Gardner's done it across formats in a rather undersung way. She seems to be getting better consistently with both bat and ball, and the performance in the test match, of course, at Trent Bridge was outstanding. And she's now somebody to look to not only tie an end down for a long time, but also take wickets. So she'd be my suggestion.
And Subas?
I think Travis Head takes it away for the Men's Cricketer of the Year. He's got the career back on track. The World Cup, especially, he won it for the Australian team, especially in the business end of the tournament. He takes the Men's Cricketer, and for women's, it has to be Chamari Atapattu. Her performance with Sri Lankan team, even though they didn't get the result, her individual performance was at the best that we can see in the women's cricket, and along with that, she got some franchise tournaments as well. So I think it's Atabatu and Travis Head for me.
Well, these awards are voted for by a panel of ex-players and media, but there's also the chance for the public to vote through the ICC website and app, although their votes are weighted to make it harder for mass votes from any group of supporters to skew the result. There are also a raft of teams of the year that will be announced, plus associate men's and women's players of the year, the umpire of the year, and the Spirit of Cricket Award 2, and they'll all come out at the back end of January. Since our previous podcast, the groups and the schedule for the ICC T20 Men's World Cup that will take place in the Caribbean and the USA later this year have been announced. There are 20 teams, the most ever, and they've been divided up into 4 groups, with the top 2 teams from each group going through to the next stage. Group A is India, Pakistan, Ireland, Canada, and the USA. Group B is England, Australia, Namibia, Scotland, and Oman. Group C is made up of New Zealand, the West Indies, Afghanistan, Uganda, and Papua New Guinea. And Group D is South Africa, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, the Netherlands, and Nepal. The headlines, I guess, are that Dallas will host the opener between the USA and Canada. That's the oldest sporting rivalry in world cricket. It predates even the Ashes, believe it or not. And that's on Saturday, the 1st of June. Co-hosts, the West Indies, will play their group matches in Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago and St. Lucia. India and Pakistan will face each other in New York on Sunday, the 9th of June. Defending champions England, they're in the same group as 2021 champions Australia. And Barbados, that will host the ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2024 final. That's on Saturday, the 29th of June. John, of the full members in the tournament, you have to say that England, Australia, India and Pakistan do have good-looking draws, don't they?
They do. In the case of England and Australia, they are the only 2 full members. The other 3 groups have got 3 full members in them. India and Pakistan drawn together. An interesting test for Ireland, a bit of a shootout for them. I'm not sure how the groups were drawn, but I guess it was always going to be the case that it's going to be a bit lopsided because the extra numbers and the format that's been chosen.
Subas, it appears Nepal is in what you might call a group of death, with 3 full members plus the Netherlands, who beat South Africa in the previous edition of the tournament. That's not a very good draw for Nepal, is it?
Brian, if you ask me personally, I am very happy with the draw. I'd have these teams around rather than having big fish like India, Pakistan, Australia, or even New Zealand in the same group. I think if you ask me, I see a real possibility of Nepal getting better results rather than having look at the other group. The good thing is Nepal is playing 2 matches in USA, which could have environment like having a home match. So we've seen that in the past during the USA tour, and we were playing Netherlands in the first match. I think if we can set the tone with that match, I'm very optimistic about having a little chance rather than having big fishes in the other groups.
Subas, I like your positivity. That's fantastic. Well, remember, the previous edition of the tournament was played in Australia at the back end of 2022, with Jos Buttler's England side securing their second title to go with the one England won in the Caribbean back in 2010. England really struggled with their defence of the 50-over World Cup. How will they get on in the 20-over version of the game? Well, that will all be revealed later on in the year. Finally, a little bit of a change from us this week. Normally, we look ahead to what the cricket week holds in store. But this time we've decided to look back. And Subas, what's been your highlight of the past 7 days?
Has to be David Warner's farewell. I think it was set up for him, and the occasion itself, I think he got a good send off. He was a good servant of the game, and the words from his peers, I think that was enough to see how he contributed to the game, and especially Test cricket. Stuart Broad's piece on him, I think that was very special for the battles they've had during the years. So it has to be David Warner's farewell.
And John, what's your highlight of the past week?
Well, our hugely talented pantomime character, Shakib Al Hassan. He was elected to Parliament in Bangladesh with, wait for it, 150,000 majority. He took a break from cricket. It was injured in the World Cup in that infamous match with Angelo Matthews being timed out. After the victory, this is the parliamentary victory, he was asked if he would be able to balance his duties as a lawmaker and a cricket captain. And he responded with, "Did I retire? If I haven't retired, then where does this question come from?" So, as ever, with him, it's very spiky stuff.
Well, thanks for joining us at the Wicket, and we'll be back soon with more cricket chat from the Gulf region, Asia and worldwide. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and comment on what you've heard wherever you get your podcast. We'd love to hear your feedback, and let us know if there's anything you'd like us to feature in future episodes. For now, though, this is Brian Murgatroyd along with Jon Pike and Subas Humagain saying thank you very much indeed for listening, and we look forward to your company next time.